Okay, so for this dress I think I'm actually going to be trying out a printable pattern, which I haven't used a lot. I usually make my own patterns, but this one is just a little bit complex, and I don't know, I feel like I want to support somebody and buy their pattern and try it out. And this one is basically perfect that I've just found on Etsy, and it's instant download, so I can just cut everything out right now instead of trying to do with patterns, and yeah, it just makes things a little bit easier. So yeah, I'm hoping to use this. So these are the supplies I have so far. I have my lovely flower mesh fabric here, which is from Etsy. I will link it below. I have a flesh coloured lycra jersey, and I have some scrap elastic for the mask. I'm making one for myself and my mum as a little surprise for her because she really liked it. If you can't tell, I like using up scraps for things, so yeah, this is just scrap elastic, but you can get thin elastic basically anywhere, so I won't link that. Okay, so I've also used a printable pattern for my mask. I've actually never made a mask for this whole pandemic, and we're coming towards the, well, I said we're coming towards the end of it, fingers crossed. Okay, so I went ahead and got the pattern for the dress, and now I am currently printing it. It seems pretty straightforward, so I don't think I'm going to have too much trouble reading it. So I pinned the pattern piece onto the jersey folded so I can get two cut out of this one pattern if you are new to sewing. I know that many of you probably aren't, but still, it's, you know, I've got to explain for the others, the newbies. Now I'm going to leave a very small seam allowance around here. I've been sewing for a really long time, so I can kind of gauge seam allowances with my eyes, but a lot of people will have to mark it. And I have my machine threaded up in some neutral coloured cotton thread, and my machine is set to a zigzag stitch at a medium to small-ish stitch. Now you have to use a zigzag because it is jersey and it needs to stretch, and if you use a straight stitch it won't stretch. Obviously kind of needs to stretch, so use a zigzag. Now that that's sewn, I'm going to press the seam flat on my ironing board. And when it's inside out, you've got the base of a mask. Now I have the outer layer cut out, and I think after sewing this little seam here, I might leave the edges raw on the outside. I'm not too sure yet, we shall see. So I've switched my thread to a paler pink colour that's quite pretty, and I think it will complement the flowers and the main fabric a little bit better. I've also made the stitches a smaller width because this stitch line will probably be able to be seen from the outside. Alright, so I've hemmed along the top of the mask here, and I've kept this mesh piece separate, so they're not sewn together, as you can see there, but they are hemmed together. And here it is on the back side. I'm going to do the same along the bottom. I just realised as I'm sewing that many people probably don't know how to hem. So what it entails is basically taking, oops, get out of the way, taking the raw edges of the fabric, folding it under, and then just sewing along that line. Currently I'm adding the elastic to one of the sides here. So I've just folded the side fabric like this, thick enough to thread my elastic through, and then I'm going to loop the elastic inside and zigzag along a line here, and it will keep the stretch then. Or alternatively, which is probably easier, you could sew here and then loop this back through there onto the other side here, sort of in there, and zigzag that way. Actually, that way is probably going to be the better way. Yeah, do that. Okay guys, so I finished my mask and I really like it. It turned out quite sweet, but I've just accidentally ripped a hole in it right there. And if that doesn't sum me up, I really don't know what else will. It turned out quite cute, and it's very fitting for spring. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the dress. I don't need a pattern for this outer dress, which is the flowers. I'm just going to be using the pattern for the underdress with the bustier top. I can definitely see that it's a flesh-toned bustier pattern, as you see here. There's some seams where there's a wire here. And I did find it quite funny on the night. She sort of ripped a hole under her arm here on the dress. So pretty fitting considering I just did that with my mask. And it also has this high neck. And I think for some of these flowers here, I'm going to be using some leftover felt, as well as some embroidery and all of that jazz, which you will see throughout the video. Actually, now that I'm looking at it close up, I think I'll be doing a straight sleeve and then this sort of frill with an open slit here on the wrist. I have all of my patterns printed out, and the side did also include instructions, which is great. This line here is the XS, or XXS rather. So I'm going to be going over that with a marker and then cutting them out. I have all my pattern pieces cut out, ready to be cut out of the fabric. I'm going to be leaving a 1.5 seam allowance around the skirt pieces, and apart from the bust cap, a possible 2 centimeter seam allowance around the bust pieces. When transferring dart marks, such as here, onto fabric, use this tool, which is a tracing wheel, and I don't know if you can see, but it'll puncture tiny holes in it. And when you flip the fabric, you can't really see them very well on camera, but they are there, and I go over them with a marker that disappears when you put heat on it. I will link these in the description. Alright, I have the main skirt assembled. It's looking a bit like a hot mess, but the darts are in, the side seams have sewn, the darts I did in a straight stitch, and the side seams I've done in a zigzag stitch. And on the back, I've left a gap in the back seam to install the zipper in. Okay, so I've gone and assembled the bodice, and I've top stitched around all of the seams so that the seams are flat here on the inside. If it was not made from stretch fabric, you could definitely install some boning here. But I'm not going to be doing that with this dress. This dress is just for fun, really. But I really like how it looks, and I put it on my mannequin, and it looks to be the perfect size for me. And next I'm going to sew it onto the skirt piece. Alright, so when sewing my bodice onto my skirt, I thought I should explain what's going on for those of you who are beginners. So the skirt is right side out and the bodice is wrong side out, with the right side facing the skirt. And they're layered together like a fabric sandwich. And I'm going to zigzag along this line here. This is the back seam where the zipper will go, and that's going to be flipped like that when we're done. Alright, so the main dress is assembled, and I've actually decided not to hem anything yet. I've decided to cut out the pieces from the floral fabric first. So I'm using up as much of this fabric as I can, and I noticed that her dress has a lot of 3D flowers, and mine is just embroidered into the fabric. So I've taken any little edges that had flowers on, and I'm cutting away the flowers to save them for later to sew onto the dress and to the mask. Okay, so I have all of my pieces from my floral overlay cut out, and I've also pinned on some flowers that I cut out of the fabric of the scrap bits, and I've cut so many flowers. I was here for about 2 hours cutting flowers out. They're just pinned on the back and front panels at the moment, as I'm going to drape it on the stand and put some darts in it, probably. But for now I'm going to sew these sleeves and sew the frills on the bottom. Okay, so I've attached one ruffle to the sleeve, this first one here. So I hemmed the edges that will be open on the wrist frill, as I'm calling it. I've left the edges raw, like hers appeared to be, and I really like the layering of the flowers that were already on the fabric and the ones that I cut off, and I'm going to sew on. A couple of them I've already attached so I don't have pins flying everywhere as I'm trying to sew the sleeves together, and that is what I'm going to do next. I'm going to sew the sleeve up here and then do the other one, but I've been using a zigzag stitch to attach the flowers in place. You can kind of see it there. Okay, so it's the next day, and I'm going to explain a bit about how I'm putting these sleeves together. So I have a sleeve frill here, as I'm calling it, and what I'm going to do is hem this edge under on the side and run a gathering stitch along the top here. Now this frill gets wider towards the bottom edge, so it flares out around my hand, but this will all be gathered as you've seen in the sleeve that I've already made. Alright, so sleeves have been sewn up and assembled, and now I'm working on the base dress. And I've sewn one of the side seams, and it's inside out here so I can place the darts. I have one bust dart going down here. Well, I said bust and waist dart, a front dart. Anyway, I have one there. Then I have one towards the back down here in the same sort of position. And I have quite a lot of excess fabric to get rid of for the zip. Don't worry about this, this will stretch, it'll fit nicely, it's just that my mannequin is a little bit bigger than me at the moment. And once the dart on the other side of the fabric is placed, it will all fit quite nicely, and I'm planning to, once the darts are sewn in, to cover the front with the other flowers that I cut out. Alright, we are getting somewhere. It's starting to look like how I envisioned it, and there's only a couple of things left to do, which is really nice. Okay, so since my last update, I've added this band up here that's kind of like bias binding, but it's not bias binding. However, my machine kept skipping stitches, as you can see throughout it. It's not entirely noticeable, which is why I've kind of left it, because it would be covered by a bunch of flowers and you wouldn't see it unless you looked up really close, but look at that. I don't know why my machine is doing it. It usually sews fine with this fabric, but yeah. Oh well, I know it will be covered, so it's okay. And that is the base dress done, apart from the hem, but I'm going to hem the jersey and the floral layers together, and of course do the zip in the back. But it's also a perfect fit, and I like it. And we have one collar, and I've gone ahead and just sewn a couple of flowers onto the front layer. Now what's going to happen with how to attach this to the dress is I'm going to sew from this side onto the front of the dress. And on the back, this will get sort of flipped under and sewn down on the back side of the dress. If that's a little bit confusing, I will show you in just a moment. Oh, and before I start that, this is a process called bagging out. So I've sewn around this edge here when they were wrong sides facing each other. And I've clipped the corners here and turned it right side out like this. Okay, so this is the front of the collar here and the front of the dress, and I've pinned them both good side to good side here, and this will be flipped over like this, and then the underside of the back of the collar gets folded under and sewn over the original line. And then we have a collar. Okay, we're very close to being done, and I am sewing the hidden zipper in. I'm glad I went with pink because it does complement the flowers really nicely. So I've just used a zipper foot and sewn the zipper in. I mean, it's pretty easy. But I've done that on one side, and I'm going to do it on the other side, and then sew up the bottom seam. Alright, the zip is in and the dress is almost finished. We just need a hem and some sleeves, but I'm also going to have to sort of stay stitch the front bust area in place of where that pin is in the middle around the edges here, just to kind of keep it up. But yeah. Okay, I put it on over my clothes. Bit weird, but I wanted to just see the general fit. And it's really cute. I love these sleeves especially. Wow. We're so close to being done. I have my mask and I have my dress, and all I need now is to hem it. Look how cute it is. It looks like I made a dress out of an entire garden. So to finish and hem this dress, I've just folded the fabric under just the once. I did want to do it twice so I didn't get any raw edges because I can't currently overlock anything yet, but it left too much bulk around the edge, and I don't like a bulky hem, so I've just done that. I mean, it's going to be covered, it's jersey, it won't fray, it's fine. However, I'm still missing stitches along the way, and I'm not sure why. I have a jersey stretch needle in, and it wasn't doing it throughout this dress apart from when I was sewing the binding around the top, but it's doing it again. I'm going to cover the edge with some more flowers anyway, but still, I just don't like it, and I'm not sure how to fix it. I've rethreaded the needle, the bobbin, but yeah. But oh well, this is how I'm hemming it anyway. dress is finished. And I do want to take some pictures outside in the gardens, but it's raining out, which sucks. So I've just put this backdrop up just to get some pictures of the finished thing, but wow, I love it. I especially love the collar. I just think that's really pretty. I've taken some pictures and I'll be posting them on my Instagram, both my sewing one and my cosplay one, at Tinkerbri Costumes and at Brie Sews Things. So check that out, I'll put it in the description. This might be my favourite like celebrity replica gown that I've ever made. I think it's really cool and unique. And it has my own kind of twist on it. Okay, I'm not sure I can put my camera anywhere to get a full shot of me wearing it right now. You have to excuse this crappy setup, it does the job. I'm ready for my Grammy. I'd like to thank the Swifties and Olivia and Meredith. I feel a bit like the May Queen from Midsummer. And here it is with the mask. Love this. I think this is peak mask fashion. Thank you all so much for watching. This has been such a cute, fun make, and I'm really glad I did it. Right, hit subscribe if you want to see my next celebrity replica, which will be Scarlett Johansson's Oscars dress. I've told you guys that now, so I have to make it. As I said, I hope you've enjoyed watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.